Vince,
Yo.
thank you so much, man. This is going to be awesome.
Oh, there we go. What's up? Hey, there you go. What's up, guys?
Good morning, Vince. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Are you in the Philadelphia area?
No, I'm in Jupiter, Florida.
Gotcha.
Oh, even better. Even better.
Yeah, we have a little drizzle. So
Yep.
it's nice. I got my garage door open. I'm looking outside. It's some palm trees and a nice drizzle. So it's as good as it gets. And that jersey, if you're wondering what that jersey is, that's my wife's jersey she wore when she was on the USA World Gymnastics team. She was not a Giants fan. And she was not a bartender. Yeah, I always had this fantasy for gymnasts, and I wound up marrying one, so it's pretty good.
That is pretty good. That is pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, Vince, I'm Heath, by the way. Look, our show is about storytelling. We don't break news. We rarely react to news. We like to bring people on and let them tell their story. So if you feel like getting long-winded, go for it. If you start telling a story and you want to start it over, feel free to do it. And all that. If you accidentally slip up and say a 4-letter word, Stephen can take that out and post.
I think I'll pass on that. I've been known not to do that, so I'll be good.
Well, good.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
But if you think you should or shouldn't get long-winded, go for it. And as always, we want you to be the funniest and smartest guy in the room. When we told Dan Mullen that, he said, "Can I be the best looking?" And we're like, "Sure, Dan, you can be the best looking too." So.
All right, Heath. Thanks. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to pull us down. We're going to get going, okay?
You go.
All right, let's do it, Stephen.
All right, cool. We're going to do all 4, okay?
Okay.
All right. All right. Three, two, one. You are locked in on the Stingray Show, and coming up on this edition, we are going to be joined by a former Philadelphia Eagle wide receiver who played 3 seasons for the Philadelphia Eagles and actually had a movie made about his time there at Philadelphia. We are going to be joined by none other than Vince Papale on this edition of the Stingray Show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, because this show is going to be a blast right here on the Stingray Show.
This is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks, kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, look, no.
Hey, Stingray, here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good. It's kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah. But then you get the baggage, you get the drama, you get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, to everyone in Tuscaloosa listening here on Tide 100.9, with the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
And ladies and gentlemen, with all of that, we want to welcome you inside another edition of the Stingray Show. And Heath, this show is going to be awesome.
Yeah, you know, Stephen, when you told me that you were reaching out to him, I usually don't ever get excited about guests, but I was like, really? You're doing this? I was like, awesome. Yes. So yeah, when it panned out and worked out, that's when I got excited. I was like, I look forward to this one.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on ahead and get right to him. He is a former Philadelphia Eagle wide receiver in the NFL for 3 seasons and then had the movie Invincible made after his story and was played by Mark Wahlberg. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome to the Stingray Show, Mr. Vince Papale. Hopefully I said that correctly. Vince, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Stephen. It's sort of Papale. Yeah, this is Italian, man. So you put that eat it at the end. That's a strong E. That's Papale. So whatever. Gotcha. Hey, I don't care what you call me. They say just call me. And yes. Hey, Heath. So you're right outside Memphis?
I am. I'm right outside. I'm in Hernando, Mississippi.
All right. So have you been to a Memphis Showboats game?
Brother, I grew up on the Showboats. I used to love the Showboats when Reggie White was there. And yeah, a lot of people don't know this. If you're a wrestling fan, Lex Luger played for the Showboats back in the day. His real name was Larry Full. But
how about that? Well, my son's playing for Memphis.
Get out!
Yeah, man. He been there. He was there last year. We love it there. I was in Memphis. How many times? 5, 6, 7 times last year.
Well, maybe we can meet up, brother. I'll tell you all the hidden barbecue places that aren't famous.
There you go. Let's go. I know there's a few of them there. Anyway, I want to take away from that, but I just got a great picture from Vinny just before we got on the air. He's at training camp. He's with the UFL, and that's my little boy, my little man, and there he is. He's ready to go. So they're going to have their first game right there in Memphis on Easter Sunday. I won't be able to be there because it's Easter Sunday. We have a whole bunch of people coming in.
Right.
But I'll be there for all the rest of the game. So, hey, man, it's great to be part of it. And, Stephen, thanks for being so patient with me. I know we were trying to hook up all the way through the Super Bowl, and I've been traveling like heck. So I promise. All right, I'll promise no bombs today.
You're fine, dude.
Let's go. Let's have a fun time.
So, Vince, I do want to go on ahead briefly, and you just talked about Memphis right there. How do you think your son is going to play this year, and how do you think the Showboats are going to do in the new UFL?
Well, I'm real excited. We're pretty pumped up about the Showboats this year. Vinny, this will be his. He was with the USFL last year.
Yes,
that's who Memphis was. They released their head coach, and they brought in a guy from the XFL team. No, the other Showboat team, and that's and that's John DiFilippo, who was the head coach there. Now he's the new head coach for Memphis. We like Flip. We love Flip. I mean, there's a lot of great things about him. Number one, I'm from a small county right outside of Philadelphia that's sort of sandwiched right between the city of Philadelphia and the state of Delaware. It's called Delaware County, Delco. Right. And John Flip, we call him Flip. Flip, he's from that same area. We grew up in the same area. But he was a quarterbacks coach when Doug Peterson's Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl against the Patriots a few years ago, and now he's the head coach. So, he became the coach. He's got Vinny playing the slot, and he thinks he might see the ball once or twice this year. So we'll see. Got a great quarterback in case. So, we'll see what goes on. But the ball's going to be flying. There's a lot of motion going on, and it's going to be really exciting. But the one thing is that the league has changed this year in that everybody's going to be stationed in Arlington, Texas, and then they'll be flying out the night before the game, and they'll be playing in the game city. So like last year was, as Heath, the stadium area.
Oh yeah,
and Vinny was just a half a mile. He had a little Airbnb with 3 of his teammates there in an Airbnb. I could walk to the stadium, and then we'd come in the night before. Yeah, go hit the barbecue joint, and then Vinny would play. And then after the game, I mean, there's so many great places to go to after the game was over. So it's going to be a little bit different this year, but we're real excited and looking forward to a big year. And Vinny just sent me a picture maybe just 5 or 10 minutes ago. With his number 13, and that's his traditional 13. So
that's awesome.
They usually don't give that number to somebody who can't catch a football. So we'll see what happens.
Now, Vince, I want to ask you, do you and your son, do y'all have some verbal jabs back and forth and tease each other who was better? Do you still kind of stick it to him like, your old man's better than you?
I always tell him, no, I don't say that. I don't want to get into that because I know he kicked my butt. I always tell myself, but don't forget, I got one hit left, and I'll tell you what, it's a good one. so don't mess with me. You know, but everybody asks me, you know, well, he clearly is, and I was a half decent athlete. I mean, I was a decathlete, you know, and a four letterman in high school and all that stuff. But Vincent, he has power, speed, intellectual, situational awareness, and I would say that, and he runs a 4.4, and he's 210 and 6'1". I think Vinny's probably got it all over me. So and but we'll you know, it's all got to transfer on the field, you know. So we'll see how it happens. But I'm sure he'll do a great job. But I'm so excited. I can't wait for this season to start. I'm out of my mind right now.
Me and you both, brother. Me and you both.
So, Vince, growing up in Pennsylvania, who were some of your favorite players as a kid?
Well, one of them actually was my cousin. He played for the Philadelphia Warriors, and people might, the Warriors, well, they eventually became the Philadelphia 76ers. But on that Philadelphia Warriors team might be somebody known as maybe, without a doubt, the GOAT of all centers, and that'd be Wilt Chamberlain. And his teammate was Wilt Chamberlain. And he actually won a championship with them. So that was my cousin. He was married to my cousin. He was a cousin by marriage. So he was one of my idols. But, you know, growing up, the Eagles were my team. I loved the Phillies. You know, we didn't have ice hockey then that time.
Right.
You know, it was a three-sport city back when I was growing up. And, you know, with the Phillies, it had to definitely be, it was Robin Roberts, you know, the great pitcher we had. But the Eagles was Tommy McDonald and Shep Bednarik. You know, I mean, these guys are icons, and they're all Hall of Famers. And it was Tommy McDonald, though, was the guy. He was the little guy. He went to Oklahoma, and he was on that Wilkinson team that won, 50 straight games in a row. And, you know, when he came to the Eagles, and he was that crazy nut, didn't wear a face mask. And when they forced him to wear a face mask, he just wore the single bar. And he always had this thing, as soon as he got hit, he would pop right up. And I just, and I was, when I was growing up as a kid, I was pretty tiny. I wasn't, when I'm 14, I wasn't even 100 pounds, 4 feet, 10 inches tall.
Right.
And, you know, getting knocked all over the place. But my thing is, I'd be Tommy McDonald. I just, you know, I made sure my shoes were like him and everything. And he was, and when I made the Eagles and I was introduced to Tommy McDonald, I cried. I couldn't believe that I was talking to my idol, and we remained friends. And I'm good. And the irony of this is great because his son went to the University of Delaware and he was a wide receiver. And my son Vinny went to UDel and he was a wide receiver. So when I'd go to all of Vinny's games, I'd be there with Tommy McDonald's son, which was pretty cool as well.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, you know, we had some really good teams back then. And then the Flyers came in, Broad Street Boys, you know, and they kicked a little butt. And, you know, and I'm still where I'm right now. I'm down in Jupiter, Florida, surrounded by some artifacts of my kids and my daughter.
I see
and my
that.
wife. Yeah. Well, that's Gabby up there. She cheered at Syracuse.
Okay.
Vinny over here. That's he was on the USA high school team actually, and they played in Dallas against Canada, and he had a touchdown in that game.
Awesome.
You know, I'm a big supporter of the police, and that little flag down there is about the COPS, Concerns for Police Survivors, and that USA right there on the back. That sort of represents my wife Janet. She was on the USA World Gymnastics team, and you know, there's a little something right there with me, but. Hey, you know what? The way I look at life, it's all about my family, and it's about what I can provide for them. And we're really in a great spot right now. I have a house in Philadelphia, and you know, and the Eagles are doing fairly well, and you know, so we'll see what's going on.
Vince, who's the best athlete in the family?
Probably, no, unquestionably, Vinny. You know, he could have played any sport he wanted to, and certainly my daughter Gabriella, even though. She cheered most of the time when she was in high school and college. Really a great lacrosse player and field hockey player. And Janet, Janet, tennis.
She's an Olympian, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, she played. You know, she was on that. And then after the Olympic Games in Munich, she was competing, I think, against Yugoslavians, and she blew her knee out. And she's 18 years old, for crying out loud, and she's wearing USA on her jersey for 4 years. And then so she goes to college. She goes to Penn State. And she tried to do the gymnastics, but her knee was back in the day when they put a knee together, they just put it together, you know.
Right.
Now they have reconstructive surgery. So, so anyway, and she said she wasn't ready to give up her leotard. And she wound up trying out for the tennis team, and she got the Joe Namath brace to wear, and she wound up making the tennis team. But the tennis coach says you can't wear the brace during a game because they're going to target you. They're going to make you go to that. So right. She was disappointed, and she was basically ready to get out of college. And the swim coach came up and said, "I've had great success with gymnasts in diving. How would you like to try diving?" And Janice said, "Yeah, why not?" She says, "I can't do the 10 meter because right. it's a flat surface and her knee would, but I can do the 1 and 3." When you know it, she sets all Penn State's diving records, and then she actually qualified for the Olympic trials, and then she had a decision to make, and I'm so proud of her. And she had an opportunity. She was coaching in South Africa, coaching the Olympians in South Africa when she was 21, 22 years old. And she got an opportunity to coach at the University of Pennsylvania gymnastics and start the men's and women's program, which she decided to do. And we sort of met back then in 76 when I was a rookie. We didn't date, but we started dating in 92. And as they say, the rest is history. But, we're a jock family.
Right.
Our house is a locker room. And, there's no holds barred. And, my kids are all athletes and, they love going to sports. Gabriella, she'll be working she's going to be working the Final Four in Arizona.
Okay.
When she was with the 76ers for 5 years, she was in charge of all their live in-game entertainment other than the games or anything you saw on the court. That was Gabby. So, and, Vinny, that's a natural. And Janet, it's down here. Ernie Ellis comes here and a bunch of the pros come here to this golf course I live on. Yeah. And Janet plays at least 3-4 times a week. So she got game. Me, I'm an army golfer. Left, right, left. Give me a cigar, give me a beer or two, and I'll put my country music on and in my cart, and I'm having a great day. I never have a bad day in the golf course.
I'm making a bad joke here, Vince. So you're not married to Elizabeth Banks like you are in the movie, right?
No.
What a shocker.
She was cool though, man. She went to Penn.
Oh, okay. I didn't know Elizabeth Banks went to Penn.
Yeah, she was an undergrad at Penn, and when Janet was coaching there, they never knew each other. And then when we got together, oh my God, Elizabeth Banks, she was so cool. Really sassy. I mean, just really cool. Elizabeth was just right there, man. And she's just like Janet, and they got along tremendously.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, she's great. I love her. And that's Mark Wahlberg, I don't know what can I say about Mark Wahlberg and the job he did. He was phenomenal. He was beyond phenomenal.
Now, Vince, let's go back to your high school days. You didn't play high school or college football. So what made you decide to try out for a spot on the Philadelphia Eagles roster?
Well, it was sort of an evolution. I actually got one, Stephen, I got 1 year in high school football. And then that's when I was a senior. I started to grow a little bit, and I was about 5'6", 160, 170 pounds. And the new head coach I had before, they had a Marine sergeant, and he kept looking at me, and he said, "You're going to get killed out there." I says, "You can't come out for a team." But I wanted to go out as a sophomore, as a freshman, and a junior, because we didn't have middle schools then. It was a traditional junior high school, 7 to 9, and then the high school from 10 to 12. And I played in the junior high school team, and my coach eventually became the head coach of the high school team, and he invited me on as a first year senior. So I was sorry about that plane. There's the West Palm Beach Airport's right around.
We didn't hear it, brother. You're fine.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I was the fastest kid in the school. I was probably the fastest kid in the county, to be honest with you, except for Billy White Shoes Johnson. And so what he did is he molded the offense around me and around the quarterback. His name was Jim Haney. He set a lot of passing records at Westchester, and went out and he got drafted by the Vikings, which was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So I had 1 year there, and then I played basketball, did okay, and then I was just going to I was actually going to get a free agent tryout, believe it or not, at a little teaching school in suburban Philly called Westchester State Teachers College, and now it's Westchester University. It was a big football power amongst all those Division III schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to get a tryout there. And so coach came to me and he just said, my football coach, he says, hey, I just got the track coaching job. And he says, I need you. He said, will you please come out? I'll get you in shape. I'll get you ready for, your tryout and all that. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I want a pole vault. Well, what do you know? I wound up being the Philadelphia champion. I was a foot and a half off the world's record. I never pole vaulted before. I hit 14.6. I hit 14.6 on Father's Day. And all these guys that I beat were guys that were given scholarships over me that I had, that I was visiting these schools. All of a sudden, I'm going from 11 feet to 11.6 to 12 to 13 feet. But they said, we already have our guy, So I beat all those guys. And on Father's Day, I was able to give my father the greatest Father's Day gift ever, and that was a scholarship to St. Joe's. But they didn't have college football. They didn't have football.
Right.
So, so here I am. I'm at St. Joe's, and then before you know it, I go from 5'8" to 6'2", running a 100-yard dash in 9.7. And, then I wound up doing half of the decathlon and all my dual meets and playing in these little rough touch leagues that we had. And then I got a teaching job at my high school. One of the coaches came up, my alma mater, one of the coaches came up and said to me, hey, I play in this rough touch league. We'd love to have you play. And I'm the season ticket holder with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I wound up playing rough touch football. And that evolved to semi-pro football. And then that semi-pro evolved. You remember with Memphis, the Memphis Showboats they had? I mean, it was a Southman back then. And Jim Kick, Larry Zonka, and Paul Warfield, if you remember. Well, I was part of that league. That was the World Football League.
Okay.
And the Philadelphia Bell had a free agent tryout just like the Eagles did. And Heath, there were about 600 or 800 guys, 80 wide receivers. And I popped a 4 or 5 against all them. And I went through 3 other tryouts, and I wound up 1 year and 4 games in the World Football League.
Okay.
And that folded. And here I am. I want to go back and get my teaching job. I was working on my master's degree. I was trying to qualify for Olympic trials in a decathlon. I was a head track coach, assistant football coach. I'm going to go back and get all this stuff again. And they said, well, we don't have a teaching job for you now because it was April. And the spring league had just folded. So, but we got a job for you next year. So I started bartending and substitute teaching. And who trots into Philadelphia after he beats Woody Hayes in the Rose Bowl, and that's Dick Vermeil from UCLA, and he had that memorable, legendary free agent tryout, and I popped another 4 or 5 in that one and signed a contract right on the spot actually, and I had 4 months to get ready, and Roman Gabriel worked me out, and a bunch of other guys, and they taught me how to be a wide receiver in the NFL, and. There it is. The rest is the movie Invincible. There it is. And
a super quick follow-up. You talked about
my buddy Mark.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. You talked about Dick Vermeil. Dick Vermeil just always seemed like a super organized guy, but he also seemed like a great guy off the field. I've never met Dick Vermeil, but was he the kind of guy that you kind of hoped that he was your neighbor? I mean, was he that kind of guy, or was he just strictly a football guy, X's and O's, and get out of my way, I got to get work done, and I'm out of here?
Well, I thought we sort of thought that, that he was this football guy just to that. But then he did something really unique when we were playing. And every Thursday night, he would invite somebody from the team, a certain group, maybe be the wide receivers, it could be the defensive backs, could be the offensive linemen. We would go over to his house for dinner, and he and his wife, Carol, would cook dinner for us, steaks on the grill. And he'd have Neil Diamond. He loved Neil Diamond, and he'd have Neil Diamond playing the whole time. And the thing was, we never talked Eagle football. We could talk about whatever we did prior to that, but we never talked Eagle football. And we sort of got to know him. So sort of on the other side. This was after the rookie year. He did it the second year, and so he was so organized, and it was legendary that he slept on a cot in the office and all that kind of stuff. And he just said, hey, look, man, look who I got ahead of me. I've got these great coaches. And he says, I'm just trying to climb my way up to the top. But then once you become one of Dick Vermeil's guys, you're him forever. And, I talk to Coach all the time. He's a big advocate for my son. He helped he helped Vinny a lot a few years ago and some things, you know, and is a very, very close friend. My wife, he just loves my wife, Janet. And we have a great time. You know, I'm always in touch with him. Always. I'll send this picture that I had with Vinny number 13. I'll send one of the people I'll send it to would be Coach Vermeil. He's your favorite uncle, you know.
Okay.
I don't know. You know, his kids are all very, very successful and his grandkids and all that stuff. But he's your favorite uncle. And, you know, and he's a Renaissance man. He loves hunting, he loves fishing. He loves doing all the outdoor stuff. He's a mechanic. He's half Italian like me. His father was his mother was Italian and his father was French, and now he's got his big wine thing, and you know I have right there is my wine cooler, and I have maybe 20 bottles of Dick Vermeil wine right in there right now, which I save for the good times, you know. I love Dick Vermeil, and we're always in touch, And I sent him a picture just a couple of weeks ago, right after the Super Bowl, Stephen, and it was a picture of 6 or 8 of us guys who were at his house that he invited us there, and he's got this log cabin on 110 acres, which is really cool. It's like a hunting lodge. That's his house that he has. And he invited us all there. And the sad thing at the end, he says, you know, those 2 guys on the end are no longer with us. They're looking and they're smiling down. And he said, thank you for sharing the picture. I mean, I just love Coach Vermeil. And we were there for his induction. He invited us out, which was very, very special. And it was a great reunion with a lot of us guys that played for Coach.
Wow.
So, Vince, after your private workout there with Dick Vermeil in 1976, how difficult were the practices where you were trying to make the final roster, and how much pressure was on you to do so?
Well, I'll answer the second part first. There was no pressure whatsoever. The only pressure was me. Nobody expected me to do anything other maybe than my father. You know, everybody else sort of said, oh, this is just a lark, you know. But I knew that I had the talent. I was just curious whether I was going to get that shot. The practices were extremely difficult. But, you know, I was a decathlete. I worked myself as hard. I worked harder, I think, than anybody else did on the team. I would always get the award from Coach after the off season was over for hard work, for the most miles run, for this, that, the other thing. You know, most improvement in your weights and those kinds of things. But man, oh man, those practices were full pads and thud tempo, most of it. Practices were 2.5, 3 hours long, double sessions. And then we'd have a walkthrough every night, and then meetings until 10 o'clock and lights out at 11. And the alarm would hit at 7, and you start all over again.
Right.
And you know, a lot of the guys, especially the veterans, were bitching and moaning like you can imagine in the locker room, and that was music to my ears. You know, I just kept my mouth shut and did what I had to do. And I was ready. You know, I had 4 months after the free agent tryout to get ready for the actual training camp, which 4th of July weekend. And that's when it started. I mean, he wanted to have that large camp. And there were about 110 guys there, and there were about 16, 18 wide receivers. And so I went into training camp that first year. I went in at 198, and I was 6'2", and I came out at 180. I lost 18 pounds. My legs were about shot. But, you know, I survived it and wound up leading the team in touchdowns and actually receptions. And so I've been a little bit pissed off if I didn't make that team.
Yes.
But you know, he saw me. He slotted me. You know, not as a position, but he saw me. My role was going to be that special teams guy, that 5th wide receiver that was just going to run like crazy downfield, throw his body around, and do it. So they were legendary. You know, guys talk about Coach Vermeil's training camp, and it was all true. It was pretty tough.
So, Vince, in 1977, in an exhibition game versus New England, you scored your first NFL touchdown, which was the game winner. Walk us through that play as you remember it, please.
77?
Yes.
That was it was actually what it was. It was a preseason game. It was just me and Tim Fox going head to head. You know. Had won the game on that one, you know, because I actually really had a good, that would have been my second year.
Right.
That was the year when I was given one of the greatest honors anybody be given by their teammates, and I was voted captain of the special teams. You know, all those guys that were riding my ass, my butt, you know, the year before, you know, now all of a sudden they became, a lot of them, half of them were gone, as coach said they were going to be gone. And half of them were gone, and I wound up being voted captain of special teams. But yeah, I remember that because I remember the battles we used to have with Tim Fox up there at the Patriots. You know, him, Foxy from Ohio State. You know, he had his big hair and all that stuff. He thought he was that guy. Hey, welcome to the NFL. He gave me a cheap shot. And I told him to keep his head on his swivel. I was going to knock him out, and I did. I got him. And you know, so I had a little bit of a reputation for being a renegade out there, which was good.
Right.
You know, but also I had the reputation for being a pretty boy. Guys thought that, you know, look at this guy. You know, we're going to knock him around, and they'd come up. You're getting all this press, and I'm getting it from, you know, the Cardinals guys, from the Chicago Bears, from the LA Rams, all them, you know, because every city I go into, there would always be a feature article on the real life Rocky. You know, which sort of embarrassed me because I love Sylvester Stallone. I love the movie Rocky, which came out right when I was coming out. Right. So, yeah, it was interesting, but it was pretty cool. But I have to tell you that one of the hallmark is in the movie. The last scene in the movie is the touchdown against the New York Giants, and they actually, in reality, I'll give you full disclosure now. They rolled it a muff. And and they said the guy didn't have control when I hit him, and they pulled it back, but we got a touchdown anyway. And that night we had a team party, and it was right around Halloween, and I got invited to my first team party. And I was sitting there with Howard Carmichael, Roman Gabriel, John Bunning. Ron Jaworski hadn't come in yet. This was 77 when he came in for Chowie Young. And that was the coolest moment in the world, to be accepted by those guys. That was really sharp.
Very nice.
Because they're my idols. These guys are my boys.
Yeah.
Sitting in the stands. Come on, let's go. I didn't want to hit any. You know, actually, here's one of the things. Coach came up to me. The first week at training camp was just all free agents and rookies, no names, you know. And then Roman Gabriel was the quarterback, just to give it some validity, you know. So we were working out for 3 months prior to that. I was working out with Steve Carlton, Mike Schmidt, and Roman Gabriel. We had this strength and conditioning coach who was into Kung Fu. So I was really into all that stuff. So Gabe's throwing me the ball all the time, you know, and then I'm just knocking everything off, you know, anything that had a different color jersey on, I hit it. And then I got to training. Then the second week, the veterans came in, and I pulled back because a lot of these guys, like Billy Bradley, I mean, they're my idols. You know, I didn't want to hurt any one of them because they're my idol. I never really thought that I'd be wound up sitting in the stands cheering for them. So I didn't want to be the guy that everybody would point a finger at and say, because that guy's not there. So anyway, it was an interesting experience, to say the least.
You know, Vince, I got a million questions about the movie, and I'll start it with this. How did it all come about? Were you shopping a script? Did a buddy of yours or a stranger come up to you and say, hey, I want to buy your story? You know, did Hollywood reach out to you like, hey, I was an Eagles fan and I remember your story? How did this come about?
Well, here's how it all came about. You know, it went, you know, I mean, there was, I got the 3 years active, and then I got the fourth year in the first preseason game. In the fourth year, I was going head to head with Scott Fiskey, who got drafted by us, a wide receiver from Penn State, and I did something stupid. Coach pulled me out of the game. I had 4 catches against who was it then? It was Baltimore at the Baltimore Colts at Municipal Stadium, and I said, one more play, Coach. And so that one more play, I dislocated this shoulder. This one I had re-separated already earlier in the game. I didn't want to tell anybody. So that was the end of it. And I got into I got at least a year out of it. So I got my pension, which was pretty cool. So now, you know, I go and I'm doing TV and radio and got into sales and marketing. And then I get married. You know, I got married in 93 with Janet, with the gymnast. And we have a couple kids. And then all of a sudden, NFL Films comes up to me in 2002. And there's this guy, little Italian guy from Philly, you know, and he's working for NFL Films, Pete Stefano. And he says, you know, they want to do a feature. You know, the movie Rocky's turning 25. It came out in 77. So the NFL and the producers of Rocky and also ESPN, they want to feature you on Monday Night Football, comparing you to Rocky, because they always call me the real life Rocky.
Right.
Well, anyway, so they showed that feature, and guess who's the Monday night commentators right before the game's coming on? The pregame guys, the late great Stuart Scott, the other side of the pillow, and Cool's the other side of the pillow. I mean, I love Stuart, and Ron Jaworski, my freaking quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And they're having a good old time, and they're messing around. It's on YouTube, by the way, you can see it. And so they're messing around, and it was like a 5-minute feature. Next day. And what they did, it was the Eagles were playing the 49ers on a Monday Night Football game, and I was the distant replay feature for the Eagles side of things, and I think it was Jerry Rice was the other side. And next thing you know, I get calls from Hollywood, and I'm getting producers, I'm getting studios, I'm getting agents calling us, and so we whittled it down, not to embarrass anybody. We whittled it down to this one guy, Ken Mock, because he had the real plan, he had the game plan. And he wrote a spec script, and the spec script came out in October of 04. And he gave the script. He gave the script to each one of you, and he gave the script to people from Columbia that represented here, and all these agents, whatever it was. Well, guess what? 2 of my favorite movies, Rookie and Miracle, were done by Mark Ciardi and Gordon Gray. They got a hold of the script, and they took it right to Disney. And as soon as Disney saw it, and the guy that saw it for the first time was a Philly guy. He remembered me. I love his story. This is what we're going to do. And he gives it to the head of Buena Vista Pictures, who was the picture arm for Disney back then. And the same ones that did Miracle, the same ones that did Rookie. Yeah. And as soon as the president of Buena Vista looks at it, she says, I don't want any more calls. That's it. I want to read the script, read the script. And in 2000 and 2005, I became a Disney property and, a Disney character. And it was so cool. My kids are like 11, and Gabrielle's 11 then. Vinny was 8, and I become that. When I got a call from Walt Disney, and they said, "You have an agent," and I said, "Well, this is Walt Disney. We're gonna do your movie." I like a primal scream. My kids were in the car. They thought that somebody died. And I said, "No." I said, we're going to Disney, man." So and that's how it happened. And then, next thing you know, Mark Wahlberg becomes me, and they shot the movie in 13 weeks, starting right around 4th of July in 05. And the movie came out Labor Day 06, round number 1. That's how it came about. Ken Mock was the executive producer. He produced America's Next Top Model, and he's still out there. He's still doing a lot of great movies. And Mark Ciardi and Gordon Gray. Mark just did the quarterback, on the underdog, the ultimate underdog. So it just goes. But this is the really cool thing. So now, Creed, the first Creed is coming out, and it's going to be done in Philadelphia, right? Or they're going to do the press conference in Philadelphia. Well, wouldn't you know it, that I get called and they asked me if I would be the MC for that press conference. Wow. So we're at the Art Museum steps, and we go into the green room, and and there's Michael Jordan, he's over there, and all the actors, actresses, and this and that, and everybody's being introduced. And Stallone is about 15, 20 feet away, and he's just signing posters. That's what you do. You sign posters. And they said, and everybody knows who our MC is. It's Mr. Invincible, Vince Papale. And Stallone looks up, Sylvester looks up, and he gives me this look, and he just goes like this. And I had heard wrongly that he wasn't real happy with me being the real life Rocky, right? Okay. When he saw me, I says, "Oh man," I was about ready to say, "I'm so sorry about all this stuff." And he just gave me a big hug. He said, "I'm really proud of you, Vince." He said, "Congratulations on a great career." And I have these phenomenal pictures of me and him together for the first time. And I did that. And from then on, we've been buds, which was really, really cool. So that's how it happened. And, the movie came out. We were number 1 in the box office for the first 2 weeks, did 30 million, which was, and it came right around Labor Day. And I have people that still come that are from Philly people that said, during the movie, we wore our Eagles jerseys, and we were and we were doing this. And, I was out in San Diego, as Stephen, I was in San Diego, and I was in Las Vegas for pregame stuff, doing a lot of stuff there. That's why I didn't have a heck of a lot of time, and we're a different time zone. And but it's still taking me. I'll be in Nashville. I'll be around the corner from you. I'll be in Nashville in a couple of weeks, and Then I'm going out to Carmel, and I've got St. Louis coming, and I've got this coming, got that coming.
Awesome.
It's still living. You know, it's every person's story. It's every man's story.
It really is. It really is.
Just
How
go
old
for
were
it,
your
man.
kids when the movie came out?
Well, when the movie came out, Gabby was 12 and Vinny was 9.
Oh, those are great ages for that.
Oh yeah, the great ages. And right now I'm looking at a Honda scooter, and it's all eagled up, and it was painted and bought and given to me by Mark Wahlberg after the shooting of the film was done, because he used to drive around. He used to drive around the set wherever we were in the set. He had that scooter, and my kids were always in the back of the scooter, the three of them. You know, Mark, a lot of times, you know, especially for the football scenes, he had like a 14-pack, you know. I mean, he was really, he really got himself in great shape. And, you know, he would just drive around at Franklin Fields rather than Penn Relays, you know. We were filming all the pro football scenes there. And we had 5,000 or 6,000 extras, you know, live extras, plus dummies that were dressed up as, you know, as Eagle fans. People say, yeah, that's typical Eagle fans, a bunch of dummies. But, you know, and he'd be driving around, and he'd be, you know, he'd flexing, and, you know, Gabby and Vinny, you know, they were just, so it's really cool. Yeah. What an experience. I mean, it's, you know, it's just like it was yesterday. It's so exciting.
So, Vince, at what stage of the planning did Mark Wahlberg sign on to play you in Invincible?
Oh, I don't know. He just was assigned to me, you know.
Okay.
There were guys that, you know, I just sort of played around with. I won't mention their names, but I actually went to a Super Bowl right before the movie was coming out, and a lot of the guys there that are some of the top male actors and performers in Hollywood were busing Mark Chiardi because they knew Mark because of, you know, with Miracle and Rookie. That, hey man, I'd like to be the guy, you know, and so Mark became the guy, and it was pretty cool. He actually threw a party in New York with that, you know, and I brought a whole bunch of pictures of the way of what really was back then, and we actually trained together for 2 weeks prior to 4th of July in 2005 when we shot the movie. And the place we trained, and all the football players were Arena Football League players, and the action was really intense, and so we were just choreographing the whole movie there. But I got Mark for 2 hours every day, one-on-one, to go through and show him all the drills. And he used to come on, you know, cover me, and so I'd run routes against him, and I was in my 50s, you know. And, you know, but he was just tremendous. And he lost 20 pounds and got himself, you know, he had a big trailer, you know, an 18-wheeler. He had a big trailer, and it was a roaming fitness center. And he worked out every day. And you know what he did during football, which was really cool, the football scenes? As we were parked at Franklin Field, that's where the University of Penn used to be.
Right.
So he's got the big van there, and he's got his van. And his brother was a chef. And he had his brother cook steak every day after the shooting of the football scenes, and just beer all over the place for these guys, you know, as a reward for them, and created that kind of camaraderie. And then we spent a week in Dallas and shot the Dallas scenes right there. And Jerry Jones played a little game and got my kids all dressed up in Cowboys gear, and had them coming down on the golf cart. It was funny. Yeah, we had a great time. So, you know, it was something that I'll never forget. And I wrote a book, and I've got a few books out there, so it's pretty cool.
Yes. So Vince, going back to the film after the filming was complete, how crazy and exciting was it for you to go around and promote the film about your life?
Oh, it was pretty cool. You know, I mean, I was there. We were promoting it. We were at the draft back then in 2006, and I was with Greg Kinnear, who just did a phenomenal job, doing Dick Vermeil, and Mark and we would be going around. We'd go to different spots and do that kind of stuff. But you know, most of the promotion was done by Disney. You know, for me, everything sort of came afterwards, and I had a couple speaking bureaus, agencies come to me and said, "You better learn how to speak." You know, being a TV guy and a radio and a school teacher. A radio guy and a school teacher, you know, that wasn't an issue. It's just, you know, how am I going to put it all together,
right,
and present it? And so, I've written 3 books, and have I speak all over the world, somewhere around here. I mean, you can only see half of the wall, But I'm a Cavaliere in Italy, and the movie was shown at the Parliament in Italy. So it's just been absolutely wild, and it's still, and how people embrace it, and say they want to be a part of it. So, and hey, come on in, just don't take advantage of me.
Right.
Now, Vince, Hollywood messes up everything, and they toy around with it, and they add so much, take some important parts out. But what were the crazy things in the movie that you weren't happy with? Whether that be, that storyline never happened, this person never existed, whatever it might be, big or small. What were some of the things that we don't know about that wasn't true?
Well, there wasn't anything there that they put in, because I had to approve everything,
Right.
So
Right.
so I approved everything that went on there. I was a little disappointed in the first script that my father wasn't mentioned, and so I had a little come to Jesus meeting with the director, and we talked about it. It's really a funny story. The director asked me to take him to the airport, and we had a little time before his flight. So, and he knew I knew the neighborhood. I said, hey, why don't we go to Max's, the bar that's representing the movie. I took him to Max's, walked in here. Yo, Vinny, how's it going? How's the movie going? And how's this? How's that? And I said, it's great. And I didn't introduce this guy as a director. I just said, This is my friend, and introduced his name. Hey, and then your dad. And they started telling stories about my dad. And after we got out of the bar, and I was taking him to the airport, which just maybe a mile or 2 miles away. And guess the Steve Miller Band comes on, and Fly Like an Eagle is the song.
Right.
And I said, Erickson, that's Kingy, that's my dad. He says he wants to be in the movie, and boom, so they wrote my father into the movie and put some great scenes in there. And Kevin Conway did a great job representing my father. The USA jersey thing, that was a little bit of a stretch. In reality, the first script had me tending bar like I was, only because the league had folded and all that, and substitute teaching. And Janet coming back from South Africa, and she goes, and her uncle really owned a bar, and her uncle, and so there was a pool there because there was a free agent tryout, and the pool was whether I was going to try out for it. And then, if I did, would I make it? And then she laid $20 down on me at that time. Well, they changed that script, and we've tried to get the NFL's endorsement. So we got Mark and Gordon, who've done Miracle and Rookie, and they go to the NFL, and immediately the NFL turned us down. They said, we've got Jerry Maguire. That's our football movie. And anyway, our guys were persistent, and they says, okay, but this is what we want. This is our compromise, so that we can have their branding rights and intellectual property rights. And they said, we want your love interest to be a Giants fan and a bartender. So for, the bartender, where their uncle wasn't a stretch, Giants fan, I don't care. So, but I use that because when I do my presentations as PowerPoint and video, I have that whole thing done. I call real versus real, REAL versus REEL.
Yeah.
And then the other side is, what my background was, because they had me in the movie as a substitute teacher bartender. And in reality, I was coaching in my alma mater, teaching, working my master's, trying to qualify for the Olympic trials, those kinds of things. So I don't spend too much time on me. A lot of it's with Janet because it's so funny when I do the way I do it. And they were the couple, three things. But other than that, all the football stuff, I had an intimate part with it. And I sat down with the second unit, and we put all those special teams plays together. NFL Films was really, really generous with us and worked with us in providing us the films of the way the plays were going back then. And, the players did a great job. So there were only a couple, three things. And now as I look back at it, they're sort of funny, and I work it, as part of my presentation.
Nice.
So, Vince, personally, what kind of reaction did you receive about the movie after it was released?
Like you? How'd you? I mean, how'd you become that guy? Actually, it was overwhelming. I couldn't believe the reaction. I mean, we ran number one. Your movie, our movie. I mean, everybody has that dream, and people try to knock you down because of the dream that you have. And I just embraced it. I tell you, the ones that probably had to deal with it the most were my children. Because we lived in a nice neighborhood. We were doing pretty good, and this is pre-movie, and Vinny was such a great athlete, and he was doing things, and he had earned his way to get to the spot that he was, and of course, between jealousy and insecurity and all that kind of stuff, they started going after my children, and then social media was just starting to come out, and she's a freshman at a private school there, and they started attacking her on social media, and it was painful to watch, and it almost, and it's finally got to the point. We had a conversation with the kids just over the Christmas holidays, and say, do you still get that Invincible stuff, that Invincible crap? And they said, nah, it's all gone. But it wasn't easy for them, but I make that part of the presentation again. The reason people say this and the reason they say that, it's because of their insecurity and their resentment because they don't have the guts to do what you do. To me, it wasn't gutty. It was just there. If I made it, we'd ask a question prior, all the way back in the beginning, was any pressure on me? There was no pressure. As pressure was put on, it was just there, and everybody expected me to do it. So, what was it? And so they're pretty comfortable with it. And Vinny right now, he's maintained himself, and Gabrielle has done really well in the business world and does real estate with my wife Janet, and doing very well. She's down here in Florida with me, and Vinny right now is out in Arlington at training camp. But mostly it was the kids. Janet's sort of pretty cool. But if anybody got in Janet's face, forget about it. I gotta tell you, because she has a hat that she wears that says "Beware, I have no filters." You laugh.
Awesome.
You think that's funny? I could go out there and I could show you that.
I've never seen your wife. I've never met your wife. I've never seen a photograph or anything. But I am a huge fan of your wife. I can tell you that just because of that hat.
What? If she were here, she just flew into Philadelphia. And I say, so I'm a free agent here for about a week. But all my buddies, hey man, come on, we're going to go here. We're going to go to see, we're going to listen to him. We're going to go there. I just want to relax, man. I've been traveling so much. But she's a pistol. She's 5'1", all 5'1", a realtor for 41 years. And I said your fatal flaw. I said you bring people in. It's like we're the SPCA only with human beings. That if anybody, and she's counseling people and working with them and running our business and being the greatest mom in the world and the greatest wife and a guy could have. So 30 years, man. They actually, the over under on me with her was about 2 years. So you would love her anyway. If she were here, she'd be right there.
Steven, we might need to bring her on the show one day.
Well, we'll have to do it. She would love it. Oh yeah, she's a pistol. Yeah.
So, Vince, now let's move to present day football. If you were a recruit coming out of high school right now, who are some coaches and some universities that you would love to play for?
Well, I'd play. I definitely want to play for Clemson. Tuscaloosa. You lost the legend, the GOAT, and I'm sure he just got tired of the portal and all the other stuff and all the crap that's going on in high school. I mean, these kids are coming out of school and they got more money than I ever made in my lifetime. And Georgia would certainly be one of them. I would love to. Oh man, I would love to play for Harbaugh. I would love to play for Michigan. Yeah, he's actually featured in the last book that I wrote with my buddy Danny Franks called The Last Laugh. The Last Laugh, Vision of Victory. It's on Amazon. Anybody cares? And featured in that book is Harbaugh. I would love to have. I'd love to have gone there. I would have loved to have gone with the Clemson. And I mean, who wouldn't want to play for Alabama? I mean, geez, oh man, And down here in Florida, I would love to go to a Florida school. One of them, which be. I'm going to have to say FSU because my daughter's boyfriend, he's an old. So I got to say that. But, they would be the teams. But, hey, listen. Oh, and Penn State. Well, not now, but I would have, under the Paterno years or the Bill O'Brien years, I would have loved to have gone to Penn State. That's where Janet, I think I mentioned, went. But, hey, it's a whole different ballgame now. What's happened to loyalty? What's happened to commitment? Mm-hmm. Hey, if I don't like it, and I busted my butt and I'm not going to start, why do I want to stay here? Let's go somewhere else. And I'm just not a real fan of the transfer portal.
Yeah, you mentioned Clemson, and Dabo Swinney, of course, played at University of Alabama. And of course, we're here on Tuscaloosa. But what is it about Coach Swinney that you would like to play for him? Because I would love to play for him myself if I had the opportunity. But
just his personality.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, he was. I was on the executive board of the Maxwell Football Club, and everybody compared us to the Heisman. But what we did is we gave awards out at all levels: high school, college, pro level, and all kinds of different awards other than the one thing. And Dabo Swinney was the coach for the coach of the year, for that great year that he had about 5 years ago. And so I was sort of assigned to Dabo and, with him, and he and his wife and, my Janet, she gets along with everybody. We just had the greatest time, with him as a person, as a man, not as a football coach. But here's the one is it was a draft. The NFL draft was being held in Philly. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And there's this great Del Frisco's is one of the great steak shops. And so we're going, I'm doing events. I'm doing all kinds of events for the NFL in the draft. And so let's go to Del Frisco's. And as soon as I walked in there, the first big table, there were 10 of them there. Dabo Swinney was right there at the head of the table. And he saw me and he just broke away and came up and gave me a big hug. And Doug Peterson's son goes to Clemson, and I know they're big Clemson fans. There's just something about Dabo and his personality that I could play for. I saw a lot of Dick Vermeil. I saw a lot of my high school coach. I saw a blend of those people that were so influential in my life that I could easily play for.
Yes.
So I could play for me, that's for sure.
Right. So, Vince, the NFL has evolved into a spread offense similar to what we see in college. Are you a fan of the new look offense in the NFL?
Yeah, I like it. I like the spread. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't, being a wide receiver and Vinny, with this offense that he's going to be running with in UFL, with Memphis with John DeFilippo, it's going to be a lot of airtime out there, So I sort of like that. I'm just concerned, that it seems like the officials are taking over the game. A yellow flag is controlling the game, if somebody say, could you play? I couldn't play today under today's rules because you can't block below the waist. I was always doing that. You can't crack back. I was always doing that. You can't spear. Well, you couldn't spear back then, but I speared anyway. I just did. I just loved hitting people. I couldn't play under today's rules. And how can guys, with the quarterback, and the roughing the passer, it's just some of these, and then this year, and then, I don't know what they're going to focus on next year after they have the league meetings. But, this year it was illegal receiver downfield. I mean, you got guys going 2 yards downfield and the play's 35 yards away and they're throwing the flag on the opposite side of the field because somebody went 2 yards down that they didn't hold up. I mean, they're engaged. They're in and the way the offensive line sets up, they can do that little bend. The officials have taken over the game way too much, and I think they need to get it back because the guys that I hang with, and the old timers, they're getting fed up with it.
Yeah, I think we're all with you, even the fans. The situation, as you mentioned, with the referees kind of taking over the game and kind of taking it out. I mean, I played my high school football in the 90s. We were taught face tackling in the late 80s and junior high and in the 90s, tackle with your face, but put your mask right in his numbers, put your mask right in his belt. And that's what we were taught. And I remember when I was teaching my son when he was playing tackle football for the first time, I coached his team and they said, you can't teach face tackling. I'm like, how are they supposed to tackle? And it just kind of blew my mind. And so they call it the side hawk now. And there was a great video that the Seahawks put out. But I was like, this is what they're teaching kids? It's about the safety and concussions. I get it. And we all want to be safe and we all want to avoid concussions. But football's a violent sport. We know what we're signing up for. We know what we're signing up for. And that's the thing that I was kind of questioning. I was like, you sign up for a violent sport. And if you ever ask any of these guys with all the concussions and, the injuries years later, would you change any of it? And they all say no. I would make the same decisions again, knowing what I know now. And I think that says something about the game and about the guys who play it,
Well,
not the referees.
But there's also that business side of things, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's just look. We were called assets back then. Players were assets. I mean, this is '76, and I'll never forget going to an NFL Players Association meeting, and he said, you're like a piece of furniture. You're an asset, and they're paying an awful lot for those assets now. I mean, the money that's being thrown around is just insane.
Yeah.
At all sport level, at all levels, and now it's trickling. It's gotten into the college level, the collegiate. Now it's getting into the high school level, and my God, how deep is it going to get? I'm a fundamental guy. I'm an old school guy. I mean, I'm in my 70s. I mean, that's the way you played the game. Tommy McDonald, man, no face mask. That was as cool as it got. Single face mask. Ben Hawkins, from Arizona, didn't do his chin strap, and just little quirky things like that you can't even do now. You get penalized for it.
So Vince, I have 3 questions left for you. The first one is, just last month, you went out to Vegas for the week of the Super Bowl. For someone who has played in the league and had a movie made about their career, please describe what it was like for you to go to an event like the Super Bowl.
That was really cool. I tell you, I did some really cool events, and I did one that was, locker room laughs that's produced, and I'm working with a young man named Eric Swan. Anybody want? There's a great story out there with Eric Swan. The guy came out of high school, played 1 year of semi-pro football, was drafted by the Cardinals, 11 years. So I was rolling around, Stephen, when you and me were communicating. Yes. I was rolling around Radio Row doing some stuff with them. What was really cool was just the reaction that I had gotten from a lot of the press saying, "Hey, come on, Vince is here. Come on, let's go. Let's talk to Vince." But I went to in an event. I actually received an award there, and I was very proud about a month ago to receive the Living Legend Award from the Philadelphia Sports Writers. Has been around for about 120 years. I mean, that was really cool. But I went to Franco Harris's foundation, and then I'm there with a lot of the guys from the Raiders and a lot of the guys from the Steelers, and that they knew me and the reaction. And then the next night, me and Eric and Janet and Rita, Eric's the sponsor and also our girlfriend. We're going to we're just going to the Legends event. We're not alumni anymore. We're called Legends.
Right.
So go to the Legends event, and when I'm introduced to these guys, and they say, "Oh my God, I love that movie, man!" With this and that. But I'll tell you, that was to me. That was it's never been that way, and for whatever reason, Mark Wahlberg, and the whole thing, and just the reaction. I just sort of looked at myself as a freak. Okay, I did it. We got it. I got out of it what I tried. I got as much out of a movie as a guy could. Rudy and I were on the phone yesterday talking about yeah. I mean, I love
great.
Rudy. He's my boy.
That sounds like a Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah. Yeah. So and he sent me Jason Kelsey just retired, and he mentioned Rudy. And I said, yeah. I said that's because that's somebody from the United States. Yeah, we'll let that one. Where's my phone? Oh, here. Let me end this sucker.
You're fine.
No, I don't. Oh, here we go. Message, and there we go. So that's probably one of them. So yeah, Rudy's as good as it gets, man. He's the real deal. So yeah, I'm still shocked. I'm absolutely shocked, and I think Eric Swan. That's a great story. I think it's something that everybody should hopefully embrace. I hope it works out.
So Vince, the NFL draft is coming up very soon. Who are a couple of guys you have your eye on that could make some big surprises on draft night?
I don't know. I'm not really looking at the draft at all.
Okay.
I just, I just hope there's, I'll just leave the Eagles aside at this particular point. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan with the Dolphins.
Yes.
Just a couple miles down the road from where I am, and Doug Peterson has been our friend since he was a player. And so we're big Jags fans. So, and I talked to Doug about where he wants to go and what he wants to do with the draft, and I'll leave it at that.
Unknown caller.
If you need to take that.
I cannot take this call. I'm on a podcast.
Thank you, Vince.
That's
crazy.
Awesome.
Jesus. So, the Eagles, they have some weaknesses. Obviously, they've got to replace Jason Kelce. That guy was the foundation. He was a cornerstone of the Eagles' offensive line for years. And but I don't really follow it too much at this particular point. And you have all these guys, and Chatsworth Osborne the third or whatever it is, these draft. Who cares? Just let's see. You know what it is? I look at the draft picks, and they got to perform. You got to perform.
Correct.
They were calling like the Eagles last year. Many dogs. With all the guys they got from Georgia. Well, guess what? After the season was over, anyway, it's one of those things. You got to, I don't care what level you're at. Look at Brock Purdy, man. He's Mr. Irrelevant.
Right.
I'm Mr. Irrelevant. And we performed. We got it done. So I don't care what number you get drafted. You just got to get it done.
So Vince, my final question for you is this: going back to your playing time there in Philadelphia, what is your favorite Dick Vermeil story that you can share with us, please?
Well, my favorite actually is when he told me that I had made the team. And,
all right.
we have a lot of great Vermeil stories. I could tell the ones where we were at his house for dinner, or his reaction after big wins or big losses and those kinds of things. But, I still was never told that I had made the team. And I come into the locker room after training camp is over. We break camp. And I'm told, just report to the locker room because there was a 45-man roster and there were still 53 guys there, But when I walked in and I saw a locker and my name was in plastic and it was spelled correctly and I had a jersey with number 83 on it and, and everything was, I said, whoa. But there's still one extra receiver. And so the Turk, the guy that cuts it from the team, walks over toward me. And he looks at me and he starts smiling. And I grabbed the playbook because I figured he's going to tell me to go to the coach and bring my playbook. And he just smiled and he laughed and he pointed to the guy next to me. I won't say who it was. He said, "Coach wants to see you bring your playbook." Wow. Now I'm going like, oh, Jesus, I think I made the team, Jesus Christ. And so anyway, we go out, go through meetings, out on the field, we're stretching. And the stadium had been set up for the Phillies, too, because it was the old veteran stadium. We're in right field. And I'm warming up, and I'm looking up, and I'm saying, oh, man, if my boys could only see me now, right now. And that's why I had my season tickets. And then Coach Vermeil comes over, and he looks down at me, he has this impish smile on his face. And I thought, oh, man, he's going to cut me right on the spot, right here on the field. And he said, congratulations, old man, you're a Philadelphia Eagle. Welcome to the team. And I just, woo. I just hugged him and I said, Coach, I said, can I make a phone call? And he said, what, are you going to have a press conference already? And I said, no. I said, I just got to call my dad. And he knew my dad. My dad was at all the practices. He got to know my dad because my dad worked at Westinghouse and he was always in the Blues, and after practice, I'd be my dad and hey, Mr. Papale, how you doing? So he knew who my dad was. He said, yeah, go ahead, call, So I get the collect call. I go into the Phillies dugout. Because I knew there was a payphone. Remember payphones?
Yeah.
So, there was a payphone. I make a collect call. I get the shop steward, and his name is Slim Kaufman. He's right out of Central Casting. I said, Slim. He accepts the call. Slim, I said, tell Kingy, my dad, tell Kingy that his little boy's a Philadelphia Eagle. Holy F, he says, holy F. When he said, Kingy, your son, your little boy, he's an effing Eagle. Vinny's an effing Eagle. And it was just like Rudy. It was a Rudy moment. Everybody in the background was going crazy when he found out he made it into Notre Dame. And that was it. That's one of my favorite, and I just go over and as they say, the rest is history. And he stayed with me. He was loyal to me. He promised me that he'd give me a shot. He gave me the shot. And now I love him to death. He's my best friend.
Vince, I actually got goosebumps. You tell that story. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Heath. Yeah. Well, hey, when we get together in Memphis, I'll give you some. We can't share on TV or radio.
Right.
Yeah, I got a couple of fun questions for you. What was it like the very first time someone asked you for your autograph?
Oh, it was cool. Yeah, really?
Was it a kid? Was it, a pretty woman?
I don't remember. I really don't remember. I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
But they still do. I'm on planes and stuff, and especially when I'm on the plane here, when I'm going to Philly, I go back and forth all the time, West Palm Airport, and I'm going to be signing off autographs in Nashville on the 22nd.
Wow.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. And I get invited to card shows, and it's a pretty cool thing. I'll never turn a kid down for an autograph, or I never turn anybody down, unless they were ignorant. If I'm having dinner or something, with a group of people, I said, if you can, I said, just give me a few minutes, and I said, well, we break up. I'll take picture. I'll do whatever you want.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
What was it the first time you saw a fan wearing your jersey? What was that like?
That was really cool. Just, actually at an Eagles game when I was there, and all the signs up there, Papale's Paisanos and all that, Papale was a pretty popular jersey back then. I freaked out. And it's really cool because all my buddies and people that I know, because, the Eagles Nation, they have their bird gang, and they go all over the country. And anytime somebody's wearing a Papale jersey, they'll take the picture and send it to me, which I really appreciate.
That's very cool. Did you ever have someone in the old neighborhood, a kid that you didn't like, or a teacher you didn't like, or a coach or whatever, and then you found out later they were wearing your jersey?
No, that never happened. No, that never happened. But that one guy in the movie that was a little bit of an a-hole, he still is. He just, he never got over it.
Right.
Yeah, the guy Johnny. And I can't figure out. I know why I was offended, because I was with my boys, my high school guys, and I took them to a Phillies game, and afterwards took them out to a restaurant, a great Italian restaurant, because it's a little Italy, but I take them there. And then in the movie, there was that one scene where when I was with Elizabeth, and the guy came up, hey, Vince Papale, we love you. You got to keep doing that. Well, that scene was created because of how I told them that story. That same thing happened to me, and they created that scene. And I suppose my friend, who I was a season ticket holder with, was offended by that, and that was it. And I've never talked to him again. And I've tried to bring him back in, but can't do it.
Wow.
His loss.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cruel.
What about looking back at your playing days? We had Coach Bill Curry on, and he's been on our show several times. And I asked Coach Curry one time, I said, Coach Curry, who was the absolute meanest guy you ever played against? And he didn't blink. I didn't even finish the question. He didn't blink an eye. He said, Dick Butkus. He said, Dick Butkus wouldn't try to hurt you or put you in the hospital. He tried to put you in the graveyard.
No, really?
And so I laughed about that. But who did you think was the hardest hitter that you played against in your day?
Well, there was a guy that actually he really got me. Charles Phillips. He was a safety for the Raiders from USC, and I was about ready to hit the return guy, and out of nowhere came a Scud missile, and he just ear-holed me, and helmet shifts around, and he starts, Rocky, hey Rocky, I'm doing all the Rocky stuff, and I wound up going to the wrong bench. I was out on my feet, and they're all laughing at me, and I thought the color was knocked out of my life. Man, he clocked me pretty good. And I'll tell you, Tim Fox from the Raiders. From the Patriots. A little guy, but man, he could strike you. And let's see, there was a linebacker from the Cardinals. The Cardinals were one of the most physical teams you ever played against. The old Cardinals, the ones that played over at the beer stadium. So, yeah. They would just take you. I actually had one guy threaten to kill me. After a game, I got a gun in my locker. He said, if you hit me one more time, I said, hey, listen, if you don't want me to hit you, I'm going to, and he's pretty well known right now. And I said, you don't want me to hit you, just, I'll yell, I'll give you an advance notice. I said, well, just stay away from me. You see me on I said, you get away from me. I said, because if you're the closest guy next to me, I'm going to hit you. And, so I had a little bit of a reputation. Or one guy, when a feature was shown on on national TV the day before, and I've been in this league for 13 years, and he's swinging his fist. We were in 3-point stances back then, and I said to the official, I said, "Sir, keep an eye on this guy." And when you know it, he goes and he throws it right in my throat, and he got 15. So,
oh, that's great.
It was great, man. It was the way football is supposed to be.
Right.
The way it was, old school, baby.
So Vince, let's end on a awesome note here. Back in your playing days, what was the most intimidating road atmosphere that you ever played in, and why?
Well, not intimidating as much as just the way the field was. I guess from an intimidation factor, Meadowlands was pretty cool because the fans were so close to the stands. A lot of stuff. Washington, the old RFK Stadium, was a little bit intimidating because we're right there. They're right on the field. Same thing when we played at Schaefer Stadium, up in Boston.
Right.
But I think the one field that it's just from a field and was Cleveland. I mean, it was like quicksand. It's like you just couldn't feel it. And the locker rooms were really small, and it was intimidating in that fashion. It just didn't. To me, it sort of was like a AAA ball, not the NFL. But that's because I played in those kinds of fields. But hey, listen, I was just thankful to be in any field. I don't care. But I mean, what a thrill to go into Soldier Field or to go to the Coliseum, or the first game I ever played in was out there. It's a preseason game in San Diego, and I'm out there, and of course my wife and I, we were staying at the Hyatt right around the corner. I said, we got to walk to the stadium. I said, that's where I played my first game, in a preseason game, and I heard the national anthem. I cried like a baby, and it started it all right there.
Wow. Well, Vince, I know you're a big Eagles fan. Who do you enjoy beating the most? Is it the Giants or the Cowboys?
Oh, it's always the Cowboys. Yeah, and Moose and Darryl. No offense to you, man. Because he's an executive in our league. Actually, I love Moose and Joe Pearson, Michael, and I. And I was with Too Tall, just and doing some stuff with him at this Comedy Central thing that we were doing. Those days are gone at this point, but there's still that great rivalry between the Eagles and the Cowboys, and it's a good one. The Giants, hey, the Giants are the Giants, and we got Jimmy Cutlets, so it's
so
I ran into his agent. You should have seen him, man. He was all dialed up at the Super Bowl.
So Vince, look, man, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, and please feel free to promote anything that you would like to.
Oh, well, thank you. Just anybody out there, and if you're listening to this, I have a book, more than anything, my wife, we have a real estate thing in 3 states here in Florida, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. But I have this really great book out there, and it's called The Last Laugh, written by myself and Dennis Franks. Dennis, I lost 2 years ago, right before Christmas, right before he was my roommate, soulmate, everything mate, and he was a godfather of my children. So he was too small. He played for Bo at Michigan. He was too small to play in the NFL. I was too old. And so we came up with this Victor's Code, from vision to victory. And then what we did is, we told our stories, and it's pretty funny. There's a lot of great pictures and stuff like that. But at the end, we have 12 entrepreneurs and very successful people, well-known people, including Jim Harbaugh, who took a look at our Victor's Code and said, yeah, I could tell my story through the code. And, from vitality to vehemence to victory and vision and all that, and so that's it. It's on Amazon, so it's pretty cool. The Last Laugh. And other than that, VincePapale.com. Anybody needs a good sedative, I'll get up and give a good presentation. But it's all good. I'm having a great time right now, trying to slow it down. And it's going to be crazy because when football season starts for Vinny, every weekend I'm going to be in Memphis at least 4 weekends. And others 5 others. So it's going to be a fun spring.
Well, hopefully we can break bread together. I'll reach
Let's
out
go,
to you.
man. We're going to definitely, make sure, Stephen, you get
Yes.
Heath's information over to me. We'll definitely connect when we get there.
Awesome.
So, Vince, look, man, we would love to have you come back and join us during the college football season in the fall and have a wonderful rest of your spring and summer. And we will definitely do this again.
I appreciate it. Next time I'll have Janet with me.
Yes.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah, Janet Cantwell. Anybody wants to look her up on Google or whatever you use, duck down. Janet Cantwell, Cantwell, and you'll see her as a gymnast, and she's quite the person.
Wonderful.
All right,
So
quite the
thank
lady
you.
too. Thanks, guys. This was
All right.
awesome. You guys, you're an invincible team. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vince, thank
All
you.
right, bud.
Pleasure was all
See
ours.
ya. All right,
All
be
right.
safe.
You too. Dude, that was so awesome right there with Vince Papale, however you say it there. And Heath, we actually went an hour and 20 minutes with that interview. So this is definitely going to be an extra on the podcast.
You know, everybody, we say it over and over and over, but it's so true. And this is the reason why. If you don't believe us, just listen to the podcast. You will laugh more, so much more in-depth stories. Check it out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, The Stingray Show. You won't regret it. Vince Papale was just amazing. He was more than what I thought, and I had him pretty high up there to start off with. So
Yeah.
he exceeded all expectations and then some. He was a wonderful guest, just a wonderful human being.
So, Heath, that is going to wrap up another edition of the Stingray Show. We hope that you guys have thoroughly enjoyed it with Vince Papale, however you want to say it, because, you know, us Southern things, we like to put a little Southern draw on it. But anyway, guys, we will see you on down the line, and on down the line is when we will have another Stingray Show tomorrow evening, right here on the show. Heath, briefly, any final words before we head out here? You've got 15 seconds.
15 seconds. No, once again, check out the podcast. And if you just now have heard of us or catching the show, hey, the Stingray Show. It's the best thing going today, baby. Check us out for all things SEC.
We'll see you tomorrow night right back here on the Stingray Show. Dude, that was awesome.
Hey, you should take us out to Fly Eagles Fly. It's the Philadelphia fight song.
Yes.
But you should take the show